So last week we did a kind of an initial segment on the release of Tier 1 quarterbacks. And then we decided, hey, we should do some rankings. People love rankings, don't they? So what we did is we each individually ranked the quarterbacks 1 through 8. And this list you're about to see is a composite of all of our rankings. And I think some of these players and where they land are going to be a bit surprising. And I strictly blame that on one of us. I think you can guess who it is.
Kenney.
I think right off,
don't point down at me.
I think right off the bat, number 8 is going to surprise people. And I was kind of harsh on him in the last segment where we were covering these guys. But man, you guys are haters. Why are you hating on Maurice Perez, huh?
You know what?
Go ahead, Pastel. Go ahead, start it off.
Yes. You know what? First of all 8 quarterbacks I think are decent quarterbacks. But we talked about it last time. He is so slow in the pocket. He's got an awesome arm talent. He has the deep pass, the short pass, very accurate. But man, with a league that has like not very good offensive line talent, I just don't see him succeeding well in the XFL because he can't move in the pocket.
I just don't. I'm just not a big fan of his. Watching him in the AAF, that's all. I mean, yeah, he has some nice throws here and there, but out of the 8, he was 8 for me. That was it.
I didn't really have him that low. I had him at 6, so I think you guys had him lower than I did.
I think I had him at 7 or 8, something like that.
No,
I had him as one of the last 2 last.
I had him at 8. He needs more time to develop, man. And I think he will be a good quarterback if he can find his way to navigate the pocket better. But until then, I just don't think he's better than 8.
You guys are haters, man. I had him in the middle tier of quarterbacks, and he's only played in a handful of professional football games. But I think in terms of just the skill sets that he has, the arm talent, he's not the 8th best quarterback in this bunch.
Ooh, I don't know.
So who's better than him?
We'll get there.
Yeah, that's why we have a list.
Oh, yeah, we're going down to 1.
So for me, this guy is the 8th. And it's not that he's a bad quarterback by any means, but Aaron Murray struggled.
Oh, stop.
He struggled in the AAF. So Pastel, take my word for it, because I was an AAF guru, and 3 touchdowns, 7 picks is not going to get the job done. I get that he played for the worst team in the league in the Atlanta Legends, but I think it's a decent fit with Mark Trestman, and I think the draft that they had were trying to tailor to his strengths, moving in the pocket. You can see here, he gets outside the pocket, and he's pretty darn accurate, but he's a smaller guy, and he just doesn't have very good arm strength. So you need to be able to maneuver in that pocket. You need the protection, and it just wasn't working in Atlanta. They drafted him as their number 1 guy, and he couldn't even beat out Matt Sims, and then he came in and was up and down. So I'm just not as high on him as some of you are.
I think he's a good quarterback. I think there's better quarterbacks in this draft. Yes, absolutely. But he's one of those guys, I said it last time, he's kind of like the Alex Smith in the NFL, but of the XFL. He's an average quarterback. I think he's going to get the job done. I think he is who he is at this point, but he's a good quarterback.
I hate when you say that.
Fine.
What the hell does that mean? He is who he is.
He is who he is, man.
What does that even mean?
He's not going to get too much better. He's not going to get too much worse. He is a good quarterback at this point.
So take that. Fine. So take what you just said right there.
Okay.
Luis Perez can get a lot better. He was Division II Player of the Year.
But what has he done?
Exactly. He has potential, though. He has the skill set to be good. He's in an offense with Norm Chow, and we're going to talk about this later. I know Kenney and I are in agreement that LA killed the skill phase, the skill position phase. So he has weapons around him. And as long as his pocket is protected and he has time to throw, he's much more effective than an Aaron Murray.
So fair point, Riley. I will give you that. That is a unique take on the quarterback situation. I had Murray a little higher, and I think he does have room for improvement. I think he can get better, and I think we've seen him play really well. I mean, the guy's one of the most prolific passers in SEC history, like ever, all time. Like, you don't do that by being average. I think Pastel hit on a very good comparison with Alex Smith. Is I love Aaron Murray's makeup and moxie, and I think he'll kind of figure it out with hopefully a little bit better of a skill set around him than what he had in the AAF.
I think in the rankings you were the highest on him, Kenney. You had him all the way up at 5.
Yep.
Yep. Gless and I were in agreement that out of the 8, he's the 8th. And I think that by the time we get to the season, I'm not so sure that he is their tier 1 quarterback, because Oliver Luck has stated that this is a fluid list, so things could change. Mm-hmm. I get it. He was extremely successful in the SEC. He holds all types of records at Georgia in the SEC. He was a 4-year starter, so if you're starting for 4 years, you're going to have a lot of numbers. You're going to have a lot of yards. So I'm not trying to say he was a bad college quarterback. He wasn't. He was a great college quarterback. But I have seen no reason at all to think that he is a professional quality quarterback. He wasn't able to stay on NFL rosters very long, and in the AAF, he was subpar in a league that had subpar quarterback play.
Fair points. I mean, that's tough to argue.
Boom!
It's the way you say it. It's like, oh, he only started 4 years at Georgia.
That's what my wife says. Don't give me that crap, man.
Georgia,
it's the way you say that.
Oh
my God! I get enough of that crap at home.
He'll be fine. Who's number 6? Come on.
I would say let's see who number 6 is.
All right, number 6, our composite. We are all kind of similar. I think Pastel was a little higher on him than some of us, but Phillip Walker for the Houston Roughnecks came in at 6. I had him at 7, and purely because if the Houston Roughnecks loved him, they probably wouldn't have drafted Connor Cook in the first round.
That's a great point. I love the guy's arm strength. You could see it right there on the screen. I mean, the guy can really sling it. Competed really hard for that backup spot in Indianapolis, and a lot of people thought he was going to get it. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what he can do. He's got some legs you've seen right there on the screen. So I had him at 5. So a little bit high, a little bit lower than I thought he was going to be, but I think he's going to be a solid guy. I think he's certainly better than the last 2 guys we had.
Yeah, my concern with Walker, and I had him at 7, was just like Riley said, they drafted Connor Cook and with the second pick in the first round to compete with him. And then not only that, he looked okay in Indy in the preseason, but Indy still kept a quarterback to be their backup who was suspended the first 2 games of the season. So, I mean, they kept a suspended Chad Kelly versus a healthy Phillip Walker. I like Walker. I think he's got some game in him. I'm not sold on it quite yet. I got to see more.
I think he's a baller, man. I think he's a good
That's
QB.
right. This is Pastel's guy. Pastel's a big Phillip Walker
guy.
I mean, he is, though. He's a good quarterback. And trust me, I think Chad Kelly has a lot of potential, too. And I think that's probably why they kept him in Indianapolis, because they have time to groom him while they keep Jacoby Brissett as a starting quarterback. But I do think Walker has that talent. Man, I think I bet, hot take here, he might win the MVP of this league. And I think the only reason they took Connor Cook, number 2, is because they're scared of losing Phillip Walker to the NFL.
Hot take. Phillip Walker won't be the starting quarterback for the Houston Roughnecks when we get to February 2020.
Get out of here.
I smell a bet in a later video. That's what I smell. I smell a bet coming on.
I'll take that bet.
We'll have to let this simmer. We'll have to come up with some type of betting odds. I don't know. I put him at 7 right in front of Murray because I just don't think his team has confidence in him if they're drafting a quarterback in the first round of the skills competition. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. It's not that he's a bad quarterback. I don't think any of these guys necessarily are bad. I think this crop is a pretty good start of tier 1 quarterbacks. But when you look at the guys ahead of him, at least on my list, he just kind of fit in that last tier. So let's move on to number 5. This is Kenny's boy for the New York Guardians, Matt McGloin.
Boom.
Yep, I had him in the upper tier too. I had him 4th, and I think I think he gets a lot of harsh criticism and very unfairly. I mean, the guy played solid for the Raiders. Like, he played well. It wasn't like he went out there and was just terrible. He had a 1-to-1 pick to interception ratio. And those Oakland teams, I mean, the one year they were pretty good. They went to the playoffs, but it's not like he was starting on stellar Oakland teams outside of the one season. So I think he did what he was called in to do. He's a prototypical pocket-style quarterback who's got good arm talent and good accuracy. I think he's going to be solid in the XFL.
Yeah, I had him right around this range too, Kenney. I really loved him at Penn State. I thought he was a baller at Penn State. Really, he was the starter there, I think, right at the end of the Paterno, when the Paterno stuff was going down, and Bill O'Brien came in, and he really balled out. And a team that lost talent. I think guys are transferring out. So I really like what he did at Penn State. So I was bullish on him coming out, and it was cool to see what he was doing with Oakland. So he's about what I thought he is, right around this 4 or 5 range when we look at the initial range.
There you go again. He is who we think he is.
You know what, Pastel's
maybe that'll be the
on
name
me.
of this podcast.
They are who we thought they were.
Not confirmed. Confirmed. He is who we thought he is.
That's right.
Well, I thought he was like number 7 on my list, honestly.
Oh, wow.
I'm not a big fan of him. So I compare him kind of like a Murray type of style quarterback. I just don't think he's as good as Murray.
So the guy who's played in 15 NFL games and started isn't better than the guy who couldn't even make it in the
here
NFL?
we go. I love it.
Nah, I mean, come on, man. Let's not go there. I'm just saying. The eye test.
It's a fair question.
It's like hot take central today.
When I look at Matt McGloin, man, it's just like I can't get the comparison. He looks like Eli Manning out there. Like his body, like how he walks, how he stands, how he like throws the ball. He looks just like Eli Manning. So of course Kevin Gilbride would go after a guy. If I can't get the real Eli Manning, well, who knows? Maybe he can. We'll see by February 2020.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's like an Eli Manning light. He really is.
If we're talking about NFL success, then why would Rashard Davis go number 1 in the XFL draft?
He's been thinking about that comeback since you said that, Kenney,
Yeah,
this whole time. He didn't hear a word that I said. He's just thinking about a comeback.
These were allocated players, not drafted, so they were chosen.
Just saying.
Yeah, so Gilbride obviously thought something of McGloin to bring him in. I mean, he fits Kevin Gilbride's system perfectly. I mean, he can make all the throws. He's not going to blow you away with his athleticism, but that's not what Gilbride's office is, clearly, coaching Eli Manning in New York. He needs a guy that's going to stand in the pocket, be able to read defenses. Gilbride's known for having a complex offensive system that's very heavily reliant on the quarterbacking, knowing where to go with the ball. And Matt McGloin is that type of quarterback. So he comes in kind of in the middle, number 5 for us. Here's where things just go off the rails, and Kenney just screwed up the whole thing. And people are going to call us idiots because of it online, and it's all your fault, Kenney. But at number 4, we have Cardale Jones. He is way too low on this list. Kenney had him dead last, and I'm getting sick and tired. I'm getting sick and tired of all the hate you have for Cardale Jones.
Dead last. And if you saw my original tweet on the original rankings, I had him 9th because I had tied for 8th was all the rest of the draft pool quarterbacks. That's how low.
So much hate, Kenney.
Of an opinion.
So much
hate. I
hate.
don't think he's a good quarterback, man.
He loves Matt McGloin, but Cardale Jones is a scrub. Yeah.
But again,
National
Matt
champion
McGloin
Cardale Jones
started games in the NFL, and Cardale Jones is just average, man. There's nothing about him that makes me think he's an elite quarterback. There's just nothing about it. I mean, other than his size, but his arm talent doesn't even impress me for a guy his size.
It'll be interesting.
Someone else deal with this. I can't deal with
this.
Yeah.
All right. So just a couple points here. One, we all know his college resume, right? Won a national championship, Ohio State, blah, blah, blah. He started big games at Ohio State and won those games. Yeah, he had a really good, ridiculous roster. But when you win a national championship, all those teams have ridiculous rosters. Like, there's not a terrible team that wins a national championship. So I hate that argument. So
every time he uses it. I can't stand it. Every time he uses it.
I know. Second, he was a practice squad guy behind Phillip Rivers for 2-3 years. In my opinion, you don't there's enough NFL talent or quarterback talent coming into the NFL that a lot of these guys get put on the practice squad. Well, they kept Cardale Jones there for a while, and then he went to another one. So they obviously think that he has enough talent to play professional football.
It's the whole, in my opinion, it's the whole size thing. A guy who's 6'5", 240 is always gonna get that preferred practice squad type treatment because it's like, well, if we can teach him how to play, you can't teach size. Where they're going to keep him over a guy who's 6 foot, 6'1", $190 because they're like, well, there's 20 of those guys. So I get it. He hung around because of his athletic potential at his size, but he's done nothing outside of a couple games to justify how far as he's gone and still continues to get hyped for when it's been 6 years since he's done anything relevant, anything. And I still say the window of relevancy was very small anyway, but that's just where I'm at. I just don't buy the hype into the guy.
I think it was a recipe for, he He left school before he was ready. I mean, he was raw. You're right, Kenny. He didn't have many starts under his belt, and he got drafted by the Buffalo Bills, didn't he? Boy, that's a swell place to set you up for success, isn't it? I mean, Josh Allen is like running for his life in Buffalo. I mean, they're finally turning the corner, it seems.
Tyrod made a career out of it in Buffalo. He did all right.
Tyrod's the man. Tyrod's a borderline Hall of Famer.
Oh, man.
Get out of here with that, Kenny.
Here we go. Here we go. People just turned off the video, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a Virginia Tech fan, by the way, so that's why I said that. But, Cardale, he's a raw talent. I mean, when you say, his arm doesn't excite me, but I get sized over Matt McGloin, like, just get out of here with that crap, Kenny. Now you're just hating, man.
The guy Matt McGloin's proven he can run an NFL offense and play in the NFL. Like, he didn't stink up the joint playing in the NFL. Like, he started games and played well.
All right, so if you're watching, if you're listening, I'm interested. Comment below. Comment where comments are commented at. Where does Cardale Jones belong? He's number 4 on our composite list, but I think all of us, I had him at 2. You guys had him at 2 or 3. So he was the upper echelon for all of us. Yep. But Kenny had him dead last, so he comes in at number 4. Let us know where you think he should go. But let's move on because we have 3 more quarterbacks to get to. And number 3, we have another guy that has a ton of potential, and we saw a glimpse of it in the AAF, and that's Brandon Silvers. So, Pastel, you had Silvers at number 2, and I'm sure you have no reasoning at all except you like his name. You think it's pretty cool. Why is Brandon Silvers number 2 on your list?
Shots fired.
So Brandon, 1, has a phenomenal first name. But 2, you're looking at these highlights right now, man. So I'm not going to lie. I haven't seen him.
Not going to lie. I've never seen him play.
Until the AAF. I'm not going to, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I saw him play in the AAF, I was like, dude, this guy has some, like, legit talent. And the best thing about him, I think that I realized, was his vision, man. Like, over every other quarterback in the AAF, he has vision that I just saw. I was like, man, he's seeing receivers that most people don't see, and he's hitting receivers that most people don't hit. So I think he might not have the biggest arm or the most accurate arm, but, man, his anticipation, his vision, I think he's going to be very, very successful in this league.
I'm pretty high on Brandon Silvers. I think that he is a guy that I just wish we could have seen a little bit more of him in the AAF because when we did see him, it was pretty impressive. I mean, he played better than Johnny Manziel. They brought Johnny Manziel in after Silvers was the next quarterback up because they had 2 injuries. Well, Hackenberg got benched, and then Mettenberger got injured and was out for the rest of the year. So Silvers was up, and they brought in Manziel, and he outplayed him. They couldn't keep Silvers off the field. So I'm excited to see where this goes with Silver. He definitely has a lot of talent. It's just, like you said, Pastel, no one's really seen him play that much. So I don't know how he got all the way up to 3 on this list, but he did.
Look, I had him at 2, man, and I watched him a little bit in college.
I had him at 2.
Yeah, at Troy. Yeah, at Troy.
They're shocking. Kenny and Pastel thinking alike. Just bad takes coming all over the place today.
Hey.
Well, look, man, you don't take a team like Troy into Death Valley and beat LSU if you're an average quarterback. Like, he's a stud, and I mentioned this on our previous allocation segment that we did. He played for Neil Brown. Neil Brown is one of the brightest offensive minds in college football right now, and he's currently the head coach at West Virginia. You don't play for Neil Brown if you're a bad quarterback. So I think this guy has a lot of hype around. Or I'm glad he doesn't have a lot of hype around him because it will allow him to really shock everybody and show what a great quality quarterback he is.
What do you think of Silvers, Glass?
Well, actually, Kenny stole my thunder because I just remember him from Troy. I actually did not see him play a lot in the AAF. I saw him that one game that he got in. I mean, and, he throws a nice ball, big physical guy, but I remember him balling out at Troy. So, it took me a little bit to remember who it was. When I saw him in the AF, I was like, oh, that's that guy who, obviously went into LSU and won that big game. But he was extremely successful in college. You look at his stats. I mean, I believe, Kenny, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was a 4-year starter at Troy.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the guy balled out in college. So, I think he's average. I definitely didn't have him 3 on my list. I had him a lot lower than this, but
I know you were hating on the AAF quarterbacks, man. You had them dead last.
I know. No all of them. I think I had all of them. Yeah, I think he was the highest one of the AAF quarterbacks I had, though.
someone that you were really high on, and he's number 2 in our list. I think obviously we were all very high on him, and it's kind of weird. I think people might be a little shocked because he's the youngest quarterback in this list, doesn't have much experience, but you can't deny the skill set, man. Like, this guy is off the charts athleticism. Jordan Tiamo, quarterback from Ole Miss. He really only started for the last couple of years at Ole Miss, and he really turned up his game that last year, his senior year. But guys, the physical talent is there. It's just, is the experience, the lack of experience gonna hinder him in a professional football league?
Jordan's going to be a very interesting case study for the XFL because he's a young guy, youngest guy on the allocated quarterbacks. He's kind of someone you could almost build your franchise around, per se, like for a long time. But again, you're talking too, is the experience there? We've had debates about versus experience and not experience. Obviously, even earlier in this segment, we're talking about NFL starts versus non-NFL starts. But there's no doubting the guy is probably the biggest athlete out of all the allocated quarterbacks in terms of overall athleticism, passing, and running. I'm really excited to see if he can put it together and really take that next step forward and become potentially the face of the XFL, because that's what he has.
Yeah, he led the SEC in passing. I mean, you got to be really good at the quarterback position to do that. I mean, he beat out Tua for it. I mean, that's impressive in itself. But I love Kenny's point, the fact that he's the youngest guy out of this, and I don't even think it's close. Like, I think he by at least 2-3 years. So if he can go out and ball out for the St. Louis Battlehawks, I mean, he could be one of the faces of the league over time.
Especially in St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But over time, because a lot of these quarterbacks are a little bit older, these guys are going to start phasing out and new talent will come in as the XFL gains a lot more credibility. Jordan Tiamo may be a guy that sticks around for a long time because he was one of the original guys and he can play and is an extremely good athlete.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see where the success goes with the Battlehawks and just kind of how the city embraces him. Man, I can imagine if Tiamo gets off to a hot start, he's going to be the most popular man in St. Louis, right?
Him and Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, I got to say, I mean, for a city that's starved of football right now, he could absolutely be one of the biggest athletes in St. Louis, and that's saying something because the Blues are coming off a Stanley Cup victory. The Cardinals are the Cardinals, so it's a very good opportunity, a very good situation Jordan has found himself in.
I think it's just a perfect example of like another Cardale Jones. He just needed one more year of playing time, and he's going to get that year in the XFL. I think he's a supreme talent. I think he's going to do extremely well in the XFL as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, Pastel. They are very similar, except Cardale has a national championship, but Kenney is higher on Tiamo.
And Cardale got benched, and Tiamo didn't.
All right, let's move on to number 1.
The debate lives on.
The debate lives on.
Jones.
We'll just have to see when it comes February 2020 how the situation in DC plays out. All right, let's go to number 1. Finally, we all agree on something. Holy crap. But number 1, we have Landry Jones, quarterback out of Oklahoma. I'm not sure anyone's going to be shocked by him coming in at the top of our list.
No. He's a stud. I mean, he did well in the NFL. I think he was the first quarterback signed at that Tier 1 contract. And you see highlights here right now. And the guy has got arm talent. He was one of the best quarterbacks in college football history as far as a stat standpoint. And he's going to come in. He's got experience. He's going to do extremely well. I mean, especially you have that connection with Bob Stoops down there in Dallas. It's going to help him out a lot.
Yeah, it's the Oklahoma alumni team down there in Dallas.
Yeah. No, he's great arm strength, great quarterback. You know, he's shown that he can play at the NFL level. Just unfortunately, when you're playing behind Ben Roethlisberger, I mean, Roethlisberger is going to get all the reps. Obviously, he's a future Hall of Famer. And then once they draft a guy right behind you, you're kind of the odd man out. So it doesn't mean he couldn't play at the NFL level. You know, he certainly has the talent to. So it's going to be really exciting to see him wing the ball around there in Dallas.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty easy selection for us all agreeing that he's number 1. I mean, we talked about the Stoops connection. We talk about the Oklahoma connection with all his teammates. But honestly, there was a reason he was the first guy the XFL signed and allocated. I mean, not allocated, but signed as a Tier 1 quarterback. He's one of the most prolific college football passers of all time. He's had ample NFL experience. He hung around the NFL for a while. So it was pretty much a no-brainer. I don't think it was really a surprise to anyone that we chose him number 1.
No.
All right, so quick recap. We have Luis Perez at 8, bull crap. We have Aaron Murray coming in at 7, Phillip Walker at 6, Kenney's boy, Matt McGloin, coming in at 5. Just ahead of him, Cardale Jones, national champion, coming in at number 4. Brandon Silvers coming in at 3. Jordan Tiamo going to the Battlehawks. He's coming in at 2. And then, of course, Landry Jones at 1. So we want to hear from you guys. Whether you're watching or listening, let us know what your ranking is, what you think of our ranking. You can crap all over it. That's fine because it's Kenny's fault that he ruined the whole list. So let us know what you think in the comment section below. And we'll kind of see how it plays out when it gets to February. What's up, football fans? This is Riley from XFL Chalk Talk. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all things XFL and interact with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at XFL Chalk Talk.